Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is March 27th, 2023. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Training on OTBoss with New Trade Setups. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar. Other webinars I have, live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? By the way, let me go ahead and readjust the charts and I'll show you some things about this new tool. All right, so I went ahead and just restarted the data. This is going to be, like I said, this is strictly in sim, so don't go thinking that there are trades setting up, because I put it in sim mode. Bear with me a second. We're going to put it in sim mode, and it'll have the little deal out here to the side, so you'll know it's in sim, okay? Because the whole idea of this webinar is going to be to show you how the product works. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and right click and put Object Trader on the chart. Now my version is 227. Okay, y'all don't have that. I think you've got 222, but you really don't even want to use that one because it does have some faults in it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it on the chart in sim. All right, now what I want to go over with you real quick, first off, is some of the things that have been added to it. Okay, now some of the things that have been added to, well, the latest release, which is Boss, actually has the auto regions. It has the new predictor trade and the predictor above and the predictor below. Okay, and my version even has a new required trend that's been added to it also. Your version, by the time it's released, is also going to have a button up here where you can control the offset on your alerts. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to do a mid-band trade setup, and you know this bar, this happens to be good on this one anyway, but let's say that you have the offset set at 0. That's going to mean that it has to touch line 4. If you have the offset set at like 4, for example, it could fire even in this area here. Okay, so that's going to be pretty nice to have, because you're going to be able to control where this thing actually will fire. And I like that capability myself, because how many times have you seen where you get into a trade, like right here, for instance, you didn't really check your fib and you get in and then they go back in your box. Okay, so we're going to have it to where you can set the offset the way you want it. Okay, that's going to be in the indicator and in the strategy, so you'll be able to tune them together. Okay, now let me go on over here to the right. Right, now the way this was designed, and let me show you here real quick. If a bar closes and you've got this on predictor above, okay, this is going to actually draw boxes on these predictors. Okay, now let's just do the one below just for sake of it. See how that box draws right there? Okay, now that is a region. So this region is actually set up to take a trade. To give an example, let's just go ahead and show you how that works. Now this is done on an offset also. Okay, so see, if I missed a trade like this, I could actually just simply change my offset, like say to 2 or something, and go ahead and get that trade as long as it does tag where I'm telling it to go. Okay, let's just go ahead and let it fire. Now keep in mind, we're strictly showing this so that you can see it the way it triggers, not the way you'll be trading it. Okay, just going to be talking. See how that perfectly hit that 2 ticks above like that? Okay, and then you're in a trade. Okay, now we've added a new feature to this. Okay, that let's say, for instance, that you wanted to get out of this trade if it got into this box. Well, obviously you could simply turn that on, and if it goes back in this box, you could get out of the trade. Okay, I'll go ahead and make it do that. You'll see it. All right. Now, if you have trend on, this should see how that exited the trade. Now, if you have trend on, which is require trend, it would not have done that because the trend is up. So you want to be careful using this little button over here, because what this button does is it simply goes with the mid band. Okay. And what I like about that is that I won't actually get into a trade that I don't want, because I'm going to only be looking for longs until we break our long short line in the sand, right? So if I wanted to take this trade, I'd just simply turn on long. If this breaches that box by X ticks or even 0 ticks, it will fire your X amount of contracts. What does the check mark beside the offset do? That turns on the offset. That's very important. Okay, because you don't have to use an offset if you don't want to. Okay, 0 is the same as not using an offset, but when it comes to the mid-band trade though, okay, now this is real important when it comes to the mid-band trade, because the offset, if it was set at like that, then it's going to look at these trades like the original code was, where it looks 4 ticks inside the shadow and a bar up. So that's without the offset. Now with the offset, you could tell it to fire all the way down here on a mid-band. What I like about it personally is that, let's say that you do a Fibonacci retracement, you'll be able to calculate, you know, for instance, do I want this trade right at mid-band? And I can tell it what offset I want. Now keep in mind, we've also got right-click trades too, so you can actually do those also, okay? But the way this was designed is so that this predictor type trade, notice how it actually drew a little box right here. Now that's because that's a below predictor. That means that's the one underneath. Okay, if I wanted the above one, now keep in mind, you're not going to trade this one unless you trade it like resistance. But let's say that you want an above trade. Well, the moment a bar closes, that will fire a box right here. It won't fire anything until you tell it what to do. Okay, so watch if that bar closes up, and I'll make it do it. If that bar closes up, that'll draw a box around that predictor right there. See there? Okay, so for instance, if you wanted to take this trade short, let's say for instance, you had a resistance area like this, and you said, you know what, I'm going to take you short if you come out of that box. You'll be able to do that as long as you don't turn this on. Because with this on, now watch it, I'm going to make it go ahead and fire so that you can see it. So see if it touches the bottom of that box, it will fire the trade, okay? So that's really good. Now, what if though you had the trend on and you tried to do that? Okay, let's just go ahead and kill this trade. Let's say then that you wanted to fire this trade out of this box, but you had the trend required, it won't fire it because that's a blue mid-band. So what I like about this particular little part of our script being added like this is that I can turn this on when we get into one of these really nice upward moves. Let's see, I don't think I had that turned on. Let's make it do it again. Because it won't fire it. See, because I've got trend turned on. The trend is going to look at 2 different colors of mid bands, long and short. Long mid bands, it's going to look for the lime green and the blue. Okay, anything different than that, it doesn't care. Okay, but if they're lime green, see, lime green actually means that the trend is pretty much stair stepping. Okay, now watch, this won't fire right here. See how it's not firing? That's because I've got that trend on. Now, if I turn that off, let's go ahead and do it again. And one thing about these, you cannot move this box. These are called predictor boxes. So if you miss a trade, you just got to miss it or hit the button. Okay, because the predictor trade, what it's going to look for is the very next predictor that draws. Right now, it's on the last predictor. Okay, see, if I don't have this required trend on, this will go ahead and fire that trade. Okay, it's pretty cool features. Dave, I'll explain it until you do, I promise. Okay, let's say, for instance, I've got that required trend turned off. Well, that's the bottom of the box, right? So it's going to fire short at the bottom of the box. See there? Okay. So this is going to be quite powerful because let me show you something here just to give an example. All right. Let's say you're trading a mid-band to give an example. Okay. And you go, let's say you go 2 contracts here. And at that time, that predictor here was not drawn. But if you actually had this set to where you didn't have the trend on, then you could actually have this thing hit the predictor, and the very second it goes out of the predictor, it would kill your trade. Okay? See, like right through there, it would kill that trade. So that can be kind of nice because you can take your coin at these predictors when they don't go ahead and head on up like you think they're going to. Okay, see, here's another one right here. Notice that you have green. Well, you've got a predictor here, but the price went past it, and then it drew another one. See there? And so if you turn this on, let's say you were in one and you got long here, and you hit that predictor and you want to get out of it if it comes back under the predictor. Well, you're coming under that predictor right there. See there? Matter of fact, that one would have gotten you out right there on that wick. So I watched mine quite a bit, and if they hesitate at these predictors, take your coin. Okay, you don't necessarily want to short them because they could really push up in your face. Okay, so let's see. I'm not understanding why you'd require a trend. What does it do? Just a second. Let me stretch out the questions. I can't read all of your questions. What does it protect you from? Well, to give an example, let's say you walk away and you go get a cup of coffee, and let's say, well, let's just go back to when we did get some of these trades earlier today. I'll show you. Let's go back to like this trade right here. See, this is, now I called this trade way down here. This is a phantom trade. Remember, I called that literally in the room this morning. Everybody should remember that. Remember, I even said it was getting a higher low. But let's say that you didn't take that and you did take this one, okay? Then by having a trend only on, you wouldn't accidentally get in a short because you would turn your predictors on like this, okay? And so you would never get a short trade at all. So it would just bounce off that predictor and fire your trade right there. Then you could take some coin when it gets up to that, see that predictor right there? You could draw a trend line underneath your lows and you could get out the trade if it breaks it. See, like right through there. Okay, so that can be pretty powerful. Now, keep in mind, I would stay with this trade until it broke the swings. Okay, and you can do that also, but let's say if you get in a bunch of contracts or something, or maybe even say 3, and you don't go ahead and take your coin up at that predictor where it kind of double top there, well, they could actually take some of your coin before they go on up to the high, and see that one didn't go to the high. Okay, and it gave you another one if I remember right. See, if you had this turned on with trend only, then it would only fire this trade long. But you can fire this trade short if you turn that off. That's why I put that in there, so you could choose. Okay, let's go ahead and go on over here and I'll show you some other things. See how this is coming right down to a predictor? That's an above predictor. So if I want to draw both of them, all right, see, that'll draw both of my predictors. And of course, see, what I can actually do is I can get into the trade if it, for instance, touches the top of the box. Okay, and we'll make it do it so you can see how it'll fire. Okay, but without this trend on, let's just leave this on right here. I'll show you what you don't want this to do. Okay, let's let it go ahead and fire. This is the way we have to test this too, by the way, is, you know, to make sure every single thing works on it, right? Okay, so now the way this is set right now, you notice that this went off, but what if you had it on auto and this stayed on? Well, in that case, this would actually fire a trade again under here, long inside. See this? Watch, I'll show you. It'll actually do it. Trying to make this the best trading tool a person could possibly have. Okay, now watch, it'll actually fire another trade here, and you don't want that there. Okay, this is where you want it, as at support, not at resistance. Well, that one happened to flip to a different predictor, so it didn't fire. Notice that another predictor drew, so it negated that trade. But it'll still fire even clear up here if you had that on auto. Okay, watch, you'll actually see it fire another one. And I'm not saying take it there. See how that did inside like that? It would even fire another one if it even gets at that top again, because we've got it turned on auto. Okay. All right, but what I'm talking about, let's say that you're in a trade like this and it starts to go south on you. Well, if this was to go south here and you turned on short outside like this right here, this will not trigger this trade out, because if required trend's on, okay? Now, if required trend's not on, this is still a region, okay? So that means that the bottom that I chose right there will fire if it touches the bottom of that box, and would get me out of, let's just go ahead and go out of all three of them, because you'll see it do it in real time with us manipulating it, obviously. Okay. What I'm trying to show you, though, is how you're going to really be able to utilize this tool as you're trading. Okay, see, let's say, pretend that you went from predictor to predictor. Okay, notice that you're flat. Now, if this had not been on trend, now notice then now, guess what it did? It fired a short, okay? Because this is actually qualifying for a short, because that bar just happened to close right there, okay? Now, you might not want that, obviously, right? So let's go ahead and close it for right now. Now notice that you could actually go ahead and go long inside the box, and you can even tell it when you want it by just simply telling it what the offset is, okay? Pretty cool little features, because you're going to see time and time again where predictors, see it touched that predictor, stopped you out, and never made any money. This predictor, nice. This predictor, nice. This predictor probably didn't fire. This predictor probably fired, unless these drew after that. If not, this one fired. This one fired, and this one fired. So you'll be able to get some pretty good trades with predictors. Now, I'm not recommending as much in sideways stuff as I am in the trending, okay? Because when they've been sideways a while, you'll just want to be scalping them, obviously, okay? So that's a few of the things that have been added to it. Now, notice if you have it on predictor only, it's going to draw both predictors. And you can do this thing any way you want. If you wanted to short that top right there without the trend on, you know, power to it, because it will short the bottom of that box if you want. I'll show you. That's good enough. And then if it comes out of the box, it will fire the trade depending on your offset. See, that's one tick. Oh, that's inside, sorry. That needed to be outside. Now we can chase it a little bit, just simply do it like four ticks under. Maybe I missed it. Okay, let's see, with this nice feature, can you recommend stop parameters? Steve, on your question, I would just simply trade it like we've always traded it, truthfully, okay? Because when I get in a trade, we'll just go back over some of those from this morning, okay? Remember? Where were we at? Let me see, that's 6:30, so we weren't in that one for sure. This one right here, remember what happened here? We had a little predictor rolled, and it never took out the low. So I said in real time, I don't like that trade, even if it comes up and rolls over, because it didn't take out the low, okay? But I'm looking at literally something like this, for instance, going long if it gets back up there, if it starts getting these higher lows. And you remember what it did? And I called this? This came down and pretty much kissed this area right here, and then it bounced. And that was a good trade, okay? And this right after I closed the room, if anybody took that, I don't know if you did or not, but that was a decent trade also. So really basically what Boss is going to do, it's going to give you a little bit more control over your coin. And, you know, you're still going to manually trade it. You know, you don't want to just turn this thing on auto and let it rip. Okay. Now, if they change trends, you can get a good trend change, for instance, like this, where it stair steps and you turn on the predictor. Okay. That can turn out to be a very nice trade. I even bought this one this morning and I was on the phone with somebody and I had my stop, you know, down just under here, for instance, and was just watching it. And sure enough, it actually did a 1, 2, 3, and then it bounced and went like a bird. And if you get in the habit of watching for this anyway, you don't really want these quick moves to mid-band unless they're a good fib. And see, this wasn't a good fib number either. See, that was only 23%. That was 38. That was 50. Perfect trade. Okay. Let's go ahead and go over to the right, and we'll go ahead and stop this and start it in another trend. I want to show you a couple of things about like the new where the mid-band trader. Okay, we'll go ahead and do a mid-band trade. Now, if you don't set an offset, like I was saying, this is going to trigger the trade when it gets within 4 ticks of the mid-band if the bar goes back up. And it'll do it anywhere in this little shadowed area. Okay, let's go ahead and take it down so that can be shown. And then I'll show you how you can do the offset. And see if this gets within that area right there, that should actually fire a trade if I don't set any kind of an offset. Now that should be a mid-band trade right there without touching mid-band, and then the bar goes up, should fire. And it didn't fire. Maybe I still have to turn this offset to, oh, that's right, I do. He changed that. So what the deal is on this, you do want to use the offset, but you would set it at +4. He was telling me that and it just buzzed past me. So let's try that again. So that's within 4 ticks. And by the way, you'll even be able to do it like under mid-band. Like if you wanted to do, say, minus ticks instead, you can still fire it like that too. Let's see if this actually, that's 4 ticks. Hopefully I haven't manipulated this enough where it's turned Object Trader kind of off. We'll find out. If so, I'll just start it again. Because that's one thing about it. If you manipulate these things for very long, Object Trader will quit working. So what I'm going to do is restart Object Trader. We're not in a trade, so we're just going to remove it, apply. And there's no errors in the log that I know of, but I'll check that just to make sure because I'm still testing this thing out. Let me check my log. Yeah, no errors of any kind. Okay, so let's turn on mid-band trade, long, and we'll look for 0, which is right at the mid-band, and I'll go even a tick above it. We'll see if it'll fire. And if I've got it a tick above it, it should get within 1 tick of that line, and it still could actually fire. So let's see if it does. He was working on mid-band earlier, so maybe I didn't get the newest, but we'll find out. Gotta go a little bit deeper, it looks like. See, I have to test this thing literally all day long like this. I test it with this type of thing, and I also test it with, you know, like the accounts and stuff. You know, if there's enough movement in the market, that is. Let's see if this is going to fire. All right, so that's plus would be right there, 1 tick above, so that should fire. If it doesn't, then he's got to fix this. Yeah, it fired, so I think we're good. Okay, so see how that came within 0 ticks like that? No, I mentioned, Tom, I'm not in real time. See this little manipulator right here? I'm trying to show you how this will actually fire so that you can tell what it's going to do when you're going to be trading it, okay? Because, for instance, if I show you like predictors to give an example, okay, let's just do a below predictor, turn it on, see that predictor right there that just set up? Well, if it actually goes 2 ticks above that, it would fire another contract. See, because I've got it set at +2. That fired on bar close. It does fire on bar close, Bob. The mid-band trade does exactly like the alert. Now you're going to be able to control both of them. I'd like to see if he could actually make it to where if you control one, it controls the strategy and vice versa, but I don't know if that can be done. Probably can. Okay, see how that predictor fired like that? All I'm trying to show you is how these are going to fire, not, we're not looking at real data. In the morning, we'll look at real data, okay? But this is showing you that it will draw the little box like you want it to, okay? If you have it set on predictor itself, it'll even draw the top box when it draws. Now watch when the top box draws, you'll see it draw. The offset simply means that, let's say for instance that, a phantom trade will fire at line 2 with the right color background, right? Well, if you didn't want that trade and you saw that your fib was way down here instead, you could just tell it, hey, I want an offset of -6, or I think that'd be, yeah, that'd be -6 if you were wanting to fire it down here instead. The way I like to use offsets or even my right-click trades is simply so that you can see, let's just simulate this just to show this. Let's say that we did a Fibonacci, okay? We know our 61 is right here at this line 2, okay? We know 76 is just a little bit below line 1. So what if we said, you know what? I want to trade right there, okay? Let's turn this off. And I said, okay, that's a 0 offset, right? On a phantom. So I just simply set this for phantom. And if it gets the background and it touches that line with 0, it would fire this, okay? Now keep in mind, you can always, I do this a lot myself even, and just hit the buttons right down here. If I see a trade setting up, I'll hit the button. See, that's a phantom, for instance, and it's looking for a 0 offset. Okay, let's let it go ahead and go down there. So is OTBoss ready now? Well, Maddie, on your question, it's very, very close. We had some issues. People turned in their issues. He fixed those that I know of. And I've got a copy right now that's got everything on it except the new offset for the alert. Let's see if we can make this fire on phantom. That's not a phantom color yet. You should get a phantom color pretty soon. There's phantom color right there. Now, let's say that you wanted to fire this instead, down in this area, for instance. You could, if you just simply turn on your offset. If you wanted like 0, see how it just touched that line? It fires the trade, okay? So that was an offset of 0, but you could have chosen a little bit like that. Now, keep in mind that you can also even tell it, I want even another one when it hits like 7 ticks from this. Not that you would, I'm just showing you that it will actually fire it though, okay, because it's an offset that looks at the line itself. Maybe I missed that. Oh, I know why, because we went above line 2. Never mind. The algorithm on line 2 is that it has to close just above. So it would have fired on this one about 3 ticks, but it won't fire up in here because that's too far on phantom. Okay. But this will give you the ability though. Let's say for instance that I wanted to go ahead and short this break of this predictor. I could set this for predictor. And the minute a bar closes, it'll fire the box and I could actually turn this on. Let's say that it hits its head there and I want to go ahead and short this. I can do that by simply, see my reverse enabled, see how it reversed it? So it's going to be a powerful tool that'll let you do what you want to do, is what it really boils down to. And I like these predictor trades myself. They've always been good. They clutter up the chart a little bit, but I've seen people's charts that are more cluttered than this by far. Okay. See, if I wanted that to be a long right there, all I'd do is turn that on and it would fire the minute the box is breached. You can even tell it, let's say you wanted it to fire 5 ticks above that box. See, I'm telling that to fire 5 ticks above that box right now. So you'll watch it actually fire 5 ticks above the little region box if it doesn't draw another one. There it is. See, it just fired. You could tell it to fire clear up here. The offset is just simply an offset. Okay. Can the predictor be less than 12 ticks wide? You know, Diane, that's one thing that basically we could certainly look at that, because see, that is that's 9 ticks wide on that particular predictor right there. There are some of them that are larger though, like this. That's a little bit bigger. So I could certainly take a look at that and see, talk with the programmer. But what I like to personally even do is to actually, let's say that you get in one at the top of the predictor and one at the bottom, it kind of averages your price out too. But I think more than anything, this is going to give you some tools that you'll be able to do. For instance, with this required trend, if you want to turn this on, and even your region will now be only with the trend. You remember the region will always do a trade anywhere you hit the region. Watch. So if I hit insert, I can fire this trade above this region. Okay, let me go ahead and do it. Let it go ahead and fire. I hope this doesn't get a little confusing, because I don't want it to be. Okay, see how that fired, but only with the trend. Okay, I can turn this trend on, and if I wanted to short this with required trend, I couldn't do it. Okay, for instance, like right now, see if it goes in the top of that box, it should fire a short, but it won't with required trend because the midband's blue. Okay, you'll see it'd even stop us out instead because we got the required trend on. Now, if I don't have the required trend on, it'll fire a short because it'll reverse that trade. See how that didn't reverse it at all? You're still long. If I don't have required trend on, it'll reverse the trade either when it hits the top or if it hits the bottom. See how it reversed it? So you're actually reversed on that trade. The required trend simply keeps you on the right side of the trade until it changes. You know, for instance, let's say that oil just decided to tank. Let's make it tank, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you saw oil start to tank and you had a long short line in the sand drawn, okay, in this particular case, it's right here, but we've been manipulating this, so it's a little bit bigger than it would be. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's say that you get a mid-band. We'll just go ahead and turn on predictor, okay, and you start getting a mid-band that changes directions. Well, then you could simply go, you know what, I'm going to go require trend, and then I'll go for my first mid-band predictor back up. Let's go ahead and let it change. This will change as soon as it takes out this area right here. See, it should start changing. And there's your change, okay? Now, if you saw this happening in real time, you said, you know what, I've got a high, I've got a low, I've got a lower high. They're breaking support. So what would I want to do? Well, I could actually turn on predictor upper and simply get ready for the short. So when that predictor draws, it would only be ready to do the required trend, okay? So let's say that this broke down and checked this right here, but barely took it out, and you're looking for a retracement. Let's watch and see where the predictor draws. And keep in mind, this is just sim, but it will draw predictors based on this price action. So I could simply have this already set up, ready to take the trade. If a predictor draws and it touches outside or even as high as the top of the box, it would still fire trades. I could even put it like, say, if I wanted 2 contracts on auto trading, like that. Hopefully I manipulated this enough where we'll get a predictor. We'll find out here in a minute. It likes zigzags. So we may have to pull it back a little bit and then zigzag it for the predictor to draw. There's a predictor, okay? So then if this actually goes out of the box, okay, see the predictor right there? Okay, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a thrust and a retrace, and then your predictor draws, and if this gets anywhere near the top or at the bottom of this, you'll fire your contracts, okay? And since it's trend specific, this won't go ahead and take a long at the top of the box if you forget to turn this on, even if you had this on, because we've got it on trend. Watch, I'll show you. See, this will not fire a long trade above that box because we're looking at requiring a trend. See there, didn't fire, okay? But if you had this set on short inside and it rolls back in there, it will fire because it's trend specific, see there? So that's why I had him add the required trend part, because when I get into a trend, I'm gonna give it that first yellow bar if it ratcheted down. Remember the one this morning didn't ratchet down, and I was right. I mean, even though I missed a good 10 tick trade, I got the long trade, which was great, okay? Because I just didn't fall for their mid band since they didn't ratchet down. Now see, this one ratcheted down, so we're actually doing this. So required trend helps us from trading stupid. There you go. There you go. Yeah, basically that's what it does. You know, if I had this set for 1 and then it comes out the bottom of this box on auto trading, it will actually go ahead and fire another trade. Okay, now keep in mind, you could fire it yourself anyway. I'm just trying to show you how the predictor will do. And Diane, on your question, I would certainly think that we could talk to the programmer about adjusting those predictors, because they're looking at swings, they're looking at Fibonacci's, they're looking at Fibonacci extensions, they're looking at the way the price action is on ABC movements, they're looking at all kinds of things. But you might be right. We might just go into the code and say, you know what, we want that only being like 5 ticks wide instead of 8 or 9. Okay, so notice that with this doing this, now what if this did like oil and it got a higher low? Let's just make it do that. Now if this actually started getting a higher low, like so, could I actually go ahead and set this to reverse? If it went inside it, I'd have to turn off this, turn this on, turn that on, and if it goes back inside that box, it would reverse the trade. Or I could say, you know what, I don't want you reversing there. Well, it already did. Let's just go ahead and close it. And let's go ahead and short it just so you'll see this. This will actually flip the, well, it's already long, so it doesn't matter. It already flipped it. But what I'm getting at here, though, is when you get these higher lows and everything, if you wanted to, let's say you're in 2 right now, for instance, and you wanted to go ahead and add, if it took out the top of that box, change that to like 3, and if it gets through the top of that box with a touch, it'll fire it. Okay, this max feature that we've really polished up to is really good. See how that does right there? Now, what if I said, you know what, this could still be a bad trade? Okay, let's say, for instance, that, you know, the overall trend's been up, but what if this was trying to get lower highs and they decided to roll this over? Well, I could actually go with the trend. And if this happened to go back through the bottom of that box, I could short this, okay? Because it's just a region, okay? What if that's a phantom? And we say, you know what? We're going to reverse this because that's a phantom trade. See there? Reverses it. So it can be pretty sharp little featured tool. And like I say, when I draw on charts and everything, I don't necessarily do a lot of object types and things, except when markets are not so much close to the open and things like that. But you'll be surprised if you have, you know, that was a phantom trade right there. You could have easily fired a short there, you know, because it did roll. Now we made it roll, but it's still a phantom. See what I mean? So see how staying trend specific, you know, you could reverse it, but you have to turn off the required trend because this trend is down. So it will not fire a long trade above that box if I've got this on trend specific. So you want to be careful with that because this could be a missile instead, and this will not reverse it. See how it touched it? Well, that did. Let me see. Why did that reverse that? Was required trend on just then? Just a second, let me see. I'm going to make it do it. Let's go back into the box. We'll go ahead and reverse it again if it goes back in the box. Let's see what that did. Required trend was not on. Okay, I thought I clicked it, but it wasn't. Okay, good. Then it's working. All right, so that would actually reverse a trade only. Now see, this is way up here, so it won't now. So let's go ahead and reverse the trade. And then we'll go ahead and, well, we don't have a predictor down here, so we won't do anything. But you'll be able to use this thing the way you want it to because, you know, the reversing and different things like that is pretty cool, and it does work. And there's times when you see, for instance, let's say you saw this was a higher low and you decided to buy this right through here and you got 10 ticks, but it rolled over, then short it as a phantom. Okay. So I like the trend specific part because that was just added today, by the way, because I wanted that feature. Because when I'm trading, like even earlier after the room closed, right in through here, this was a beautiful trade, and all you had to do is have it turned on to predictor below. You already knew that it was stair stepping up, right? Pulls back, and then you just simply turn these on like so, and you get the trade. Yeah, I nailed a couple of those trades this morning. I was talking to some, matter of fact, I was even helping, let's see, who was I helping? I think it was Steve. I was helping in the morning, and this actually did a little trade right here on a phantom. I even called it while we were doing his little phone call and everything. And I mean, that monster went like a bird right to the top. Does anybody remember where I said that oil was heading? It headed higher than I said, even than that measured move. But look where it's actually heading. Let me show you. Well, we've got it on fake right now, but anyway, I've got a box drawn. That's where it's heading. Now we've got this manipulated right now, so this is not real. Okay. But see, you could actually be ready with Object Trader with some of the features that I've got. You know, for instance, let's look at another one that I really like. This is the auto region. Let's say, for instance, that this did a little retrace, and you see that you're going to have a predictor at least above here. So you can see the swing, thrust, retrace, thrust. So you're looking for a little predictor right in through here. You could be ready for it. All you'd have to do is just say, okay, I'm going to go for a predictor trade as soon as it comes down and kisses midband. I could already have my stop figured out right there. It's got to get a higher low if it's going to thrust, retrace, thrust, right? So what I'm trying to do is get some good tools for all of us so that we can absolutely, make some great trades. Okay, so far this predictor is below right here, obviously. And this is not the only things that's in this particular release. We've got a feature on here. Let me just go ahead and fire it and I'll show you. Okay, there's a little region box. Let's go ahead and make it fire. See, it'll fire the moment it touches the top of the box, okay? But we've got another feature that I like real well too. So you can actually move your targets with arrows. Okay, you can move them by hand also. Just grab them. But you can move them with these arrows. You can move your stops too. Like if I wanted that stop up to like almost break even, I could just bring it right up there like that. Yeah, that's a pretty nice feature. It's also got this one too. Let's do this at like break even +2. You just simply hit like +2, break even, and your stop's right there. See, that's 2 ticks. So you can do this. And if you click that again, and let's do break even like -4. See, it'll bring it down like that. That's a pretty cool little feature. Okay, now if you move it manually, it'll still move it manually, but then if I hit this again, it'll pop wherever I want it. I could do like +7 by now. See what I mean? So that's another thing that we've really polished up that works quite well. So basically what he's going to be working on tomorrow is we're going to add a menu item up here that'll simply be an offset for midband and phantom. Okay, because you'll want your alerts to show up the same time your trade shows up on Object Trader. Because if you manipulate this offset, you're not keeping up with this one that works in, basically, let me show you what we've actually added to this also. Let me just kill that. I'll show you here. Okay, on Object Trader, we've added a feature on here that's number 17. Let me see where it's at. Or did I already miss it? I think he left it on 17. He may have moved that. I'll bet he moved it because he's building it. Yeah, he moved it. So it's not going to have that anymore. We had a box that you could actually change the offset in, but since I got the latest copy that besides the one he's working on right now, he took that off. But you had a little box here that you could actually manipulate the offset for your mid-band trades to keep up with the strategy. But then you'd have to open this up each and every time to do it. Oh wait, no, it's in the indicator. Sorry, just 1 second. It's in the alert indicator. Yeah, I knew that. There it is. Midband and phantom. See, that's set at like 1. You could set that at anything you want. And then it would do the same thing as the strategy would if you set it on the same thing. Okay. Not trying to make this complex, just trying to make it to where it's a really good trader for all of us and can stay trend specific for us if we want it to. Okay. Because you'll find that when they start moving a market, look at that. Thrust, retrace, thrust, mercy be, trade after trade, set up, even up to the close and everything. But, trend specific, would you have gone short? Now, this is our stuff right here. This didn't really happen. What's really happening right now, I'll just show you. I'll just take it off of simulated data and go to real data. And tell me if you would have shorted this market from all the way down here. See the midband? The midband has not changed directions. So couldn't I have just left on gotten in a trade way down here, which I did, by the way. I traded this morning. But look at these trades that just kept setting up. There's one right there, boom. There's one right there, boom. Another one, boom. Another one, boom, boom. Maybe that's a little iffy. I'd say that might be a scratch, possibly. There's another one right there. There's another one right there. There's another one. That one didn't trigger. That one triggered. That's a trade. This one triggered. You may have stopped out on this one because it did take out the swing. So let's just call it that. Then there's another trade. There's another one there that probably, I don't know if I would have taken it anyway, but that would have fired on a predictor. And then there's another trade here out of the box, another one trade here out of the box. So you definitely just turn on, but now that it's going this way, couldn't you actually just say, you know what? I'll turn on Object Trader and we'll put it with required trend and look for a short predictor above, because when this finally breaks, it'll break, kiss, and roll. And you'll see that over and over and over where they'll do that. Let me see if I can find it last night. Let's see. It's been pretty much up, hadn't it? There's a little trades through there, but I want to find an area that really broke down. Oil's been on a tear. There's one right there. See, for instance, this is about the same thing. See how it's totally sideways? So if you would have turned on the predictor trade for the opposite direction, you would have gotten that trade right there. And that happens time and time again, and in my opinion, and you only need one of them that does 50 ticks like that. So couldn't you actually just be ready for you see a high, a low, a higher high, higher low, higher high. So this is your line of sand long short right there. This is your a little bit more conservative line of sand short, see? Because it kind of double topped before it did that, and then like an ABC. So for sure, if they break this, they're going to be heading down, and you'd watch for a break, a kiss, and a roll. And that's the whole idea of predictors, because this would change colors, this would crook down, and you get your first trade short. Okay? Watch and see if tomorrow morning this doesn't actually go ahead and do this trade we're talking about right here. Okay, let's see. Very cool, but I like region boxes better. Got to get used to the auto region. The auto region, let me show it to you real quick too. The auto region will simply draw every 2 bars. So if let's go ahead and put this back on the simulator, because see how slow this market's going. Let me just simulate it again. Okay, and then we'll put on the little box. And here's your auto box. And you click insert. And as soon as another bar draws, it will draw the box. Now, could you go ahead and take a trade out of the box? Sure. But watch what it actually will do. We'll manipulate it so you can see it. See, it's drawn on the last 2 bars. You can clearly see it. Bar close, bar close. If another bar closes up, it'll draw from here to the next bar, which should be about right there, actually. See if it does. It will, because we're manipulating it, but you'll see it actually draw. See, that's the last 2 bars. And if it does it again, it'll draw on the last 2 bars, which would be this bar here and this bar here. That can be a pretty powerful little tool too. And I may even talk to the programmer about polishing that up a little bit, because I don't necessarily like, when they're in a mood to go up, for instance, that's a 9-tick region. I like it when they're like side by side like this right here. See where you have a down bar and an up bar, where you can really box it in tight. And you'll have that quite often, because remember, we're manipulating this data right now. But this box will draw exactly where the last 2 bars close. Okay, see, I'm going to make this close down, so it's going to draw right there. And the top will be a little bit lower. See there? See how it draws on the last 2 bars? Thing I like about auto region is something like this. You get a trend change like we did after the room closed. Just think about this. This can be huge trading, by the way. Let's see, let's say you had the auto box on right here, okay? First off, you got to get a thrust to retrace and take out so that you know you're heading up. But what if that box just kept drawing and you said, you know what? I'm going to go as many as 4 contracts. What if you started with 1 here or 2 and you took 1 at coin and then you got in another one when it came into the box or something like that? And then you just kept adding it on every 2 bars. See, like there'd be a box right there even, and it just keeps adding. Are you doing colors for top, bottom on wedge? On the predictor we are. You'll notice the predictor will draw exactly in the color that the predictor is, and you can change that. For instance, for instance, Charles, when he was in the room and everything, he couldn't really see greens that well. And reds were, well, he was a little bit colorblind, not majorly, but it made it more like browns for him. So you can actually go into the predictor script and change it. Let me see if you do it in the strategy. Let me think. Predictors, yeah, you do it in the strategy. So if I wanted, my bottom predictor to be like lime green instead, and my magenta one to be like maybe dark magenta or something like that, and then white and navy, then when you draw your predictors, it would also do that. I'll show you. I think we kept that, didn't we? Yeah. So I'll go ahead and start it. So you'll be able to choose what colors you want. Let's see if it draws another predictor. We'll find out, hopefully. We'll let it draw one. Oh, yeah, I got to turn that on. Duh. So the box, I don't remember exactly what color. Yeah, see, it's lime green. See there. So you can choose the colors that you want. And you can choose the color of these too to match this by going to your indicator, on your predictor. And you just go to predictor MTF and change those colors and save your template. So you're not stuck with these colors at all. Everything that we do at Viper Trading, as a rule, it's not black box. But what if you saw this happening in real time? You saw this with a higher low. You had a predictor sitting here. Could you do this and just turn on a long inside trade? Nice tight stop just in case, and let's say that it pops up and it gets you a higher low. And guess what? You get in at the bottom of a predictor instead by simply turning on long inside. See how that'll fire the trade inside the box? And I like these features myself, because if I got in this trade here, let's just say, I probably wouldn't have taken this, but let's say you're taking some sideways trades. I would take a contract in through here if it was 61%, and that's probably about what that was, and then add one down here myself. Why are predictor ovals different from predictor rectangles? Well, the reason for that is, Ron, because we wanted it to where your predictor can become a region so that you can actually fire a region trade. See, with a predictor being an ellipse, you don't really have defined top and bottom except if you draw a region on it. So for instance, if I want even like another contract at the top of that, until that box goes away, it'll take the trade. Okay. Now, if we get another predictor like down here, let's say for instance this didn't fire and it came down and you got a different predictor, I'm going to make it draw a predictor down here. This box will go away and it'll draw down here. I'll show you. I hope I can manipulate it like that. You'll see it all the time in your real trading. See, like pretend, well, let's just kill this. Now watch and see if you don't get a predictor down in this area instead, without breaking the trend, obviously. You'll see the predictor will draw in a different spot, and you can always take those too. See if I can make it draw. Should get one here pretty quick, I would think. The thing about predictors are they're based on a little bit of a zigzag, so we're not zigzagging, I'm actually manipulating it. But let's see if we get a predictor down in here. Let's see, Dean, when changing from one object type to another, region to phantom, for example, the touch number, touch plus 2 reverts back to touch 0. And we did that on purpose because, for instance, let's say that you're doing a region trade and you had this thing set for another trade that you had taken an offset of like 5 or something like that, then you want it returning back to 0. Now we could put a box possibly and have it to where it doesn't necessarily have to do it that way, but I do like it turning back to 0 myself, because each and every trade I get into, I make sure that I look at my offset. See if we can draw a predictor. May not draw one because it's, you know, we're kind of heading down the way I did that. So let's see if we can draw one. I just want to show you that it will draw a different predictor as soon as this one runs out of juice. See if I can make it. Now in real time, you can see it does that. See, but see how it zigzags? Draws a predictor. Zigzags, draws a predictor. There's a blue one anyway. I was hoping I could draw one for you, but it will in real time, obviously, because you see predictors all over the place. Now, if we turn red, we won't draw a green predictor. So let's see if we can draw one. Maybe put it in trend instead. Let's see if it'll draw one. Yeah, so keep in mind that the rectangle is simply a trade. Predictors will draw all day long, but when you want to trade, you'll want the predictor to draw a box. Now keep in mind, like I said, the predictor, you can't manipulate this box. You can't move it like you can the region. So if you want to just continue to draw a region box around your predictor, you can do that too. But the beauty of this is that you could be ready for the next trade simply by, let's say if this does decide to break down, then you could be ready for the first time into the trend change, you know, which it'll normally do. Anybody have any questions? I recorded this. I'm going to be doing some training on this more and more, and I'm hoping that he gets every single little glitch out of it. Believe me, we've been working on it. It's still not drawing a predictor, probably just simply because we're not moving in normal like a predictor would. Okay, let's see. The top and bottom of the ovals are 3 ticks, larger top and bottom than predictor rectangle. No, they're correct. See it? It draws right at the very bottom of it and the top of it. That's the way it's designed. It simply draws a box around a predictor. Now see how it drew one right there, for instance? You could still take that trade long by simply turning this on. See, that's still a green predictor because you got a yellow midband. So if that actually touches that predictor, and let's say it just goes inside, it won't fire the trade unless you get a tick up. See, and then if that did decide to bounce, it would fire the trade. See, just like that. That's staying with the trend. Now that the trend has changed, you won't get another green predictor. See the midband? That was a deep retracement like we got truly in real time this morning in oil. Remember? We actually got a trade like this morning in oil. So I think you'll like them. And Object Trader, obviously, you can still do this, you can still do this, you can still do this, and add as many contracts as you want. You can even change this if you want and even add more and more. It's up to the individual. It's got all kinds of capabilities. If you're ever scared of a trade, you know, take some out. It's pretty easy to do. Got it down to 4. You know, it's real easy to do. Now, as long as it doesn't draw another predictor, let me show you something else. Even though this is a midband like this, without this turned on, this will still fire a trade if that comes down inside that box if I turn this on. Okay. On your CPU, it's different, Ron? That's weird. Have you got your predictors different or Ranko bars or anything like that? See, that's one thing you'll also have to watch too is these predictors are set at the MTF, which is 4 range. Now you can manipulate these. Let me show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll wrap. Let me go ahead and get rid of everything here. Let's say that you set your predictors for, turn this off too. Let's say you set your predictor for, I don't know, let's say predictor. You did like, well, let's do it like a large Ranko bar to give an example. I'll show you what predictors will do. Let's go with logic with his big bars, okay? And then we'll go with the predictor based on larger bars too. So go down to predictor and choose like his bar, for instance. Logic, what was that, 10, 100? I forgot what it was, 10, 100. Was it 150? Let's try that. That would be your predictor. And see where the predictors go now. See, so there's a big difference in you know how you set the predictor. So see, I just manipulated that. Now, will I get any trades? Probably not, because we get our trades really good on what we've designed. Okay, and you don't want to use big bars to begin with, because what if you used this region auto and you set it for 2 bars? Well, that's 2 big bars right there. See what I mean? There's 2 again. So you don't want to really use big bars if you're going to use something like this, because it'd be like trading 10 or 12 or 15 range bars. Okay. So keep in mind that you can manipulate anything of ours. You can even change the backgrounds if you want to. Okay. If I go into this and say, I want a background based on, instead of 4 range bars, what if I wanted it based on like 12 range bars? It'll change the background. See there? Because it's looking at a lot larger, you know, but everything that we've done is pretty well set in stone. And if you ever mess something up, just go to template, load, Object Trader NT8, and you're back in business. And I take those logics off too. Everybody get something out of this? I hope it helped a little bit. We'll keep, you know, hammering it in until everybody understands everything about this. But let's say, for instance, that you saw this happening in real time. Not that this is real right now, but see that mid-band change? So could you actually just say, you know what, you're heading up pretty nicely, so let's just turn on Object Trader with a predictor trade, predictor below, and turn it on long. And could you be ready to take that trade? Maybe you only want 2. And then when that comes down to the predictor, then it would fire the trade. And you're going to see this time and time again where our predictors are pretty spot on. And if you do your fibs and everything, you'll even get better than that. Okay. Yeah, this was recorded, so it'll be up on the website and everything. Okay. Hope it helped. The program is also working on one other thing. Video cards refresh rate can be killer on slower computers on pretty sophisticated strategies. So he's going to work on even checking to see if he can have the strategy itself look for your refresh rate on your computer and adjust it accordingly. So hopefully, you know, that could even take care of some things. But he did fix the part where it wasn't loading on your screen. Some people had that problem. It wouldn't enable. And some people had a little bit of a problem with targets. We haven't found that one yet, but I'll still release it before we do that one, because you can still see how that predictor showed up, and then you're just ready to take the trade because it would bounce off of it. and we see that all the time. Okay, so that's what I personally like about it, is because while this is this color of a mid-band, I'm only going to be looking for long trades. See, and then when it bounces out of a predictor, you just take the trade. Okay, I had to use simulated tonight because I wanted to show you every feature on it, where you can clearly see even your offsets and everything can fire a trade accordingly. You know, like if I wanted 4 contracts, if this goes out, say 3 ticks above the box, watch it fire only when it gets 3 ticks above it. See there? So you can control that in real time. It's an on-the-fly feature. And that's what I want on every bit of my trading system, is on-the-fly stuff. Now I got to find out why that fired that one right there. That should not have fired another one. So I'm going to show him this at 8:11 my time and see why that fired. That should have fired that trade, but not that bar right there. But oh, I think it would actually. You know why? Because line 5 is also an offset. So with that being 3 ticks above line 5, it would actually fire that trade, I'll bet you, because that's 3 ticks away. So that's what it is. Okay, if we would have set that at 0, it would have never fired it. Okay, everyone, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. I probably got some of the most sophisticated stuff out there. I don't know of anybody that's got anything like this puppy right here. But I feel like Bill Gates on engineering something. I've spent a small fortune on this little pup. Okay. All right, we'll do it for real in the morning. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. It was recorded. It'll be up on the website tomorrow morning. All right, have a great evening. Thanks everyone.